الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Last week we mentioned we're discussing Surah Fatiha. So just recap the past couple of weeks, which we started from إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only from you do we seek assistance, do we seek help. And the greatest assistance, the greatest help that we can get is guidance. This is why we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Last week I mentioned exactly what was as-sirat al-mustaqim, the straight path, the long, narrow, wide. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the straight path, through the straight path, and or make sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us reach all the way to the end of this path. And just understand this one example. That when students you enroll in a university, then we tend to take guidance not from fellow students, but from those who have already graduated, people that have already passed, people that have already done the course. We take advice from them. So similarly, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are there examples of those people who have already taken this path, who have already done this path, who have already graduated? So in the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, the path of those whom you have favored. So the path of those whom you have favored. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored. Now here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He uses the word an'amta, which is a verb in past tense. So all the time, when we're looking at those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored, they will always be in the past tense. The people we look up to, they will always be people of the past. And who are these people? صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, then whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned them throughout the Quran. The Anbiya alayhim as-salam, all these stories which are mentioned in the Quran, Ashab al-Kahf, all these people are from الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored. And here again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He attributes, all the credit goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. That if only because of the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, were these people, were these Anbiya alayhim salam and all these pious people, they were able to cross this path only through the help and through the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No person alone can cross this path. This path is very difficult, but with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people will be able to cross this path. So just understand the word an'amta. In Arabic, the word an'amta, it comes from the word nu'uma, which means softness, relaxed. This is why you have another word in Arabic, an'am, which means cattle, camel, sheep. Because these cattle is referred to an'am because they have nu'uma. When they walk, cattle, sheep, when they walk, they have nu'uma in their pace. When they walk very soft, very calm, very relaxed. So similarly, those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favors, then for them this path will become very easy. They won't even realize. So this is why we ask صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, the path of those whom Allah you have favored. And bearing in mind, this path is very difficult. That the higher, remember I mentioned in the word al-mustaqim, a person he rises towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The higher a person goes, the easier of a target he becomes. It becomes easier for people to attack this person. So, but through the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person, this path will become so easy, it will be like a person going up an elevator. He won't even realize, he won't even feel it. And then after this, we supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is mentioned, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Do not make us, is usually translated as, from amongst those who have incurred your wrath, and neither from amongst those who are lost. So again, what does غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ mean? In Arabic, al-maghdub alayh, the problem with the translation in those who have incurred your wrath, in Arabic, there is no mention of you here. Al-maghdub alayh, just understand what this means. If we were to say maghdubun alayh means a person who has earned anger. So, it's example, if everyone is mad at you, then you'd say maghdubun alayh. And this person is receiving anger. So in English, if you were to say he received a beating, then you haven't mentioned who beat him up. So same way, maghdubun alayh, he is receiving anger. We haven't mentioned who he is a recipient of anger. You haven't mentioned who is angry at him. So same here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't mention Himself. He just mentions that these people are people of such people that they are receiving anger. They are the recipients of anger. So two reasons for this. Number one, because it could mean that a lot of people are angry at these people. That not just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels, the believers, and people of the past generations. All these people are angry at these people, number one. And secondly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so angry at these people, He doesn't even wish that His name to be mentioned alongside these people. And after this, وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. And neither amongst those who are, sometimes it's translated as neither those who have gone astray or misguided, but better translation is neither those who are lost. Now, a person, example, he's planning to go somewhere, on the journey, he's driving his car, but he gets lost and he doesn't reach the destination. You'd say the person has become lost. You wouldn't say he's misguided or he's gone astray, but you'd say he became lost. Similarly, you don't make us amongst those who became lost. Okay, now again, look at the two words, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ and وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Both of these words, they are both nouns. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the verb past tense. So the people, the role models, the people that you look up to, they will always be in their past. And these two other categories Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, they are both nouns. When I mentioned about noun before in Al-Hamd, nouns are permanent. They always exist. So in the past they were there, in the present they are still here, and in the future they will still exist. So again, as Muslims, these two categories will still exist. So we still need to watch out. I'll explain who these people refer to in just a moment. So they will always exist. So what does it mean? In one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, these غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ and وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ have been referred to as the Jews and the Christians. The مَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ as the Jews and وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ as the Christians. Now many times we misinterpret this and think that this is مَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ just refers to the Jews and وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ just refers to the Christians. But this doesn't mean that if I have a Christian friend and I speak to him, then you can come and say that I spoke to my وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ friend today. But no, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran is referring to the attitude and the behavior of the Jews and the Christians at that time. How those certain particular behaviors of theirs. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have just mentioned غَيْرِ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى. Could have just mentioned Yahud and Nasara. But He's not referring just to the Jews and the Christians. And secondly, if this was just referring to the Jews and the Christians, there was no need for us to supplicate not to make us from amongst these people. So, like I was saying, these are nouns. There is still the possibility that we could be amongst these people. So, what was the behavior of the Jews at the time? The trait of the Jews, the behavior of the Jews was, despite having knowledge, they had no action. They were still did not accept Islam. They still did not accept the Prophet. So, Maghdubi alayhim means refers to that behavior of the Jews, that despite knowing, they did not act. So they had the knowledge, but they had no action. And what Allah refers to those, to the Christians, the behavior of the Christians, that they had action, but they had no knowledge, they had no guidance. So this is why this can also apply to us as well. That person, he has knowledge. How many times does a person have knowledge, but he has no action? We know about the deen, we know about Islam, we know about many of the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but despite having knowledge, we don't make action. Or we don't stop ourselves. So this is what Maghdubi alayhim refers to. And what al-Dhalin is just acting and having no guidance. So here, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covered both. You get some Muslims that say it's better not to know, will be held accountable. So in other words, it is bad, the Maghdubi alayhim, to have, even despite having knowledge, even then you don't act. But again, ignorance is not an excuse as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you give an example, if a teacher has students, many students, he's given certain questions. Tomorrow I'm going to assess you on these particular topics, and he's given them their questions as well. And now one student was absent, and the rest of the students, they received all the questions. Now tomorrow the examination day came, and now the teacher, he takes the exam. Now 2 students fail, the one that was absent and the one that was present on the day the teacher he gave out the questions. Now obviously the teacher will be angry at both students, but he will be angry more at the one who received the question and still failed, because he had knowledge, but he knew the questions, but he still failed. This one last one he mentioned first, and then waladhdallin. But again, ignorance is not an excuse. If a person is driving and he's driving 40 miles per hour on a 30-mile-hour road, and he gets stopped over by police, you can't just turn around and say, I didn't know, and then the police are just going to let you go. So ignorance is not a justifiable excuse. So again, we need to protect ourselves from being in both categories and make effort to attain the guidance, attain the correct knowledge, and also bring it into action. So now just take a look at this entire surah, subhanallah, as a whole. In the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfectly balanced this surah. There are 2 themes in this surah: knowledge and action. In the first 3 verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions knowledge. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Knowledge is mentioned. And then in the verses after this, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ till the end, Allah says all the verbs are used. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only you do worship. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guide us to the straight path. Verbs are mentioned. It's talking about action. So a person who has both knowledge and action, then this person is on the straight path. You can say he is on Sirat al-Mustaqim. So إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. A person, he has knowledge and he brings that into action, then you can say this person is on the straight path. Then you have 2 types of people that are misguided. That you have knowledge but no action. And which category is this in Surah Fatiha? This is غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ. And thirdly, the third scenario that you have is you have action without knowledge. And this category is this in Surah Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to waladhdallin. So again, you have 3 scenarios: knowledge and action together. Then these people are on the straight path. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Then you have knowledge without action. You have this is غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ. And you have action without knowledge, waladhdallin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala balances all these 3 themes, or both themes, perfectly in the Surah Fatiha. Another way this surah is balanced, another example is, we can divide this surah into 3 parts. If you look at the first 3 verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about himself. All 3 verses are talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All praise and thanks belongs to Allah. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim is again talking about Allah. Maliki Yawmiddin is talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again. Then the middle verse, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, is talking about both us and is talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You request from us and we come into this servitude, into the slavery of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And verses 4 onwards, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, is just talking about us. So now, from many students, might not be students of Arabic, but I'll try my best to explain. From the grammatical aspect, in Arabic you have 2 types of sentences. Sentences which start with a noun, and second type is the sentences which start with a verb. The first type is referred to as jumla ismiya, and the second type is referred to as jumla fi'liya. Simple noun sentences which usually start with a noun, and the second type is verb sentences which usually start with a verb. Now the first 3 sentences which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about himself, they all start with a noun. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. And what I mentioned about nouns before was, nouns are permanent. So like the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal, and similarly is more suitable for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that nouns are used, which are eternal, which are permanent. And then look at the end of the surah, verses 5 on اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. This is talking about us. We are making a request. So for us human beings, verbs, like we were saying, are temporary, and human beings, we are also temporary. This is why it's more appropriate that verbs are used. We look at the middle sentences, which is talking about both us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though this sentence, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, it is a verb sentence, but it begins with a noun. إِيَّاكَ. Now the linguists, they debate over this, but again, so it includes both. It includes a verb and includes a noun. So subhanAllah, because it's talking about both us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it's appropriate that both a verb and a noun are used. So subhanAllah, this surah is perfectly balanced. Another example how this surah is perfectly balanced is, you look at the first three verses to mention, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Mention the conclusion of that, the first three verses is all Iyyaka na'budu. That we come to this conclusion that only you do we worship. So again, that we mentioned Rabbil Alameen. Then the last, from Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim onwards, look at that. This is all a request from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are seeking guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is all an Iyyaka nasta'in isn't the intro to that part too. So the first three verses, the conclusion of which is Iyyaka na'bud and Iyyaka nasta'in, is an intro to the rest of the surah. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfectly balanced this surah in all aspects. To the extent that not just from the Surah Fatiha in itself, the Surah Fatiha is the first surah in the Quran. And if you take a look at the last surah of the Quran, Surah An-Nas, here even there's a balance between these two surahs as well. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts positively. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all praise belongs to, all thanks belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Nas, it starts with a negative aspect. The whole concept is different, but Allah starts with قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. I seek refuge in, say I seek refuge in Rabbil Nas. Another thing, Surah Fatiha, it starts with a noun, and again Surah Nas, it starts with a verb. In Surah Fatiha, we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rabbil Alameen. In Surah Nas, we say Qul A'udhu bi Rabbin Nas. Because of the context is completely different. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim is talking about something positive. I said the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned. But in Surah Nas, he's talking about the whole context is different. So why mercy is not mentioned. After this, we say Malikin Nas. In Surah Fatiha, we say Maliki Yawmiddin. So everywhere, subhanAllah, the entire surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfectly balanced it everywhere. This way, we may go on to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to understand and appreciate and contemplate over this surah. Then after this, Malikin Nas, Ilahin Nas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, in Surah Nas, he mentions Ilah. When a person comes, accepts Islam, what does he say? He has to say the Shahada. In the Shahada, what does a person say? Say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. So he mentions the word Ilah. So Ilah refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same way in Surah Fatiha, after the first three verses, we say, Iyyaka na'budu. We surrender ourselves into your slavery. So Iyyaka na'budu in Surah Fatiha, and in Surah Nas, we have Ilahin Nas. Then again, من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. We seek refuge from two types of people, من الجنة والناس, from the jinn and nas. And in Surah Fatiha, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to make us from غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. We seek refuge, or we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to make us from these two categories of people. So subhanAllah, in all aspects, this surah is completely and perfectly balanced. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to contemplate and read the surah with a better understanding. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.